Sí, sí, ya lo miré. Vamos a ver.
Okay, let's get started. Sorry for the delay. Morning. Okay, so we're going to learn a very fascinating letter of the previous Rebbe, addressing a question that every thinking person asks in his life, not just once, but many times. And the question is, why am I here? What's the point of my existence? What am I supposed to do here? And although there is a Torah and there's a mitzvahs and there's a code of Jewish law, and it seems to address a lot of what we're meant to do, but more often than not, despite the fact that we have so much instruction and guidance from the code of Jewish law, most of our decisions, it seems, are in our own court, and they're not directly governed by the code of Jewish law. So the question is how to figure out what your role is specifically, and the previous Rebbe is going to analyze this from a very you'll see from very asking very pointed questions about who we are and where we come from, to bring us to come to a personal conclusion about this question. There was a tzaddik named the Dubna Maggid who was famous for his parables. The Maggid gave the following parable. He said that there was a Jew who hired someone to bring him lumber, and the deal was that if the lumber does not arrive on time, the deal is off. The lumber has to be received on time. Oh, good morning. If he does not get the lumber on time, he is not responsible to pay for it. So the gentleman, this wagon driver, accepts the deal, and he tries to bring him the lumber. It was the month of Tavis, and it was treacherous rains, and it was muddy. He couldn't bring him the lumber on time. So after he delivers the lumber, the guy says, "I'm not paying you. You brought it too late." So they went to a court. He says, "No, I brought it." He went to court, and the court says, "What's your claim?" "My claim is that it was raining." So, well, you accepted the condition, you accepted the deal, and therefore you are responsible for what you accepted. So he says, "1 second, where does this rule come from?" So it comes from the Torah. When was the Torah given? Torah was given in the month of Sivan. Okay, Sivan is a summertime. Month of Sivan, then it would make sense for this rule to apply. But now we're in the month of Tavis, when the winter time. So this rule does not make sense at this time that we're in right now. This rule makes sense in a time when it isn't raining so much. When it's raining, this rule does not make sense. So in a similar way, people often rationalize because we want to have our conscience to justify whatever we're doing. So we often rationalize our circumstances and where we are and where we come from, and therefore we adjust the Torah's messages for us because of convenience. So that's a mistake, of course. You can't lower the bar just because of your circumstance. On the other hand, there is a lot about your circumstance and where you were born and why you were born and who to give you insight about what your specific soul mission is. So while on the one hand it doesn't make sense to adjust Hashem's instruction to you based upon your circumstance and to lower the bar, it also doesn't make sense to ignore all of who you are and what you're about to consider what your unique role is in this world. You have to ask those questions. We see even among Torah scholars of generations that there were different Torah insights that were revealed different times of history. The Torah says that when God gave us the Torah, there was a voice, and the voice called God Lo Yosef was a great voice. Lo Yosef. What's Lo Yosef mean? One interpretation is never stopped. And with that voice, all prophets today, till today, are able to prophesy with the same voice that God gave us at Mount Sinai. That means that although Hashem wanted to tell us a message, he doesn't want us to know that message in the year 2448. He wants us to know that message in 5781. Different messages Hashem gives us at different times in history. And each generation Hashem gives the Jewish people someone like Moshe Rabbeinu, who's meant to give the generation what they need to know for their time. The Gemara says that although everyone has to all the mitzvahs, there's something called Zohar Tzvei. Zohar Tzvei means a mitzvah that you are more careful. The Gemara recounts a discussion where one sage asked another, what did your father, he did all the mitzvahs, which mitzvah did he do most, did he pay the most attention to? In Hebrew, the word for paying attention, Zahir, also means Zohar, which means light. Which mitzvah did his soul shine in? Which mitzvah did his soul specifically, was he the most animated in? Which mitzvah was he the most animated in? So, in a similar way, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, in Gersa Kodesh, he says that although we're all obligated to all mitzvahs, but there are certain times that the focus is on a certain mitzvah. For example, the Rebbe once said that Hasidim in our time, our mitzvah is to share the wellsprings of Chassidus. The Rebbe spoke about how, since we're at the time of the end of the exile, our role right now is to work on greeting Mashiach. We need to polish the buttons, the Rebbe said at one point, or to prepare to greet Mashiach. We need to, on another occasion, the Rebbe said that we've already polished the buttons. Our job is to just stand ready and greet Mashiach, and to make sure that all of our Torah and all of our mitzvahs are done with this intent. How will this lead towards the coming of Mashiach? As we're discussing on Shabbos about how when Mashiach comes, the air will change. We'll feel good. We'll feel good on Mashiach will come. In a similar way, it's possible to see good in others and to feel good when you see other people because you're looking for the good in them. So the focus of our generation in general is about greeting Mashiach and thinking about how we'll be in a moment after Mashiach comes. But that's all general. But then there's you and where you come from. Very often people who came from backgrounds with a lot of knowledge of secular knowledge, and they came Bali Tshuva, they wanted to reject all that they've learned. They said, well, now I've become Bali Tshuva, I want to stop being a doctor, I want to stop being a musician, I want to now be frum, I want to be religious. And more often than not, the Rebbe advised artists and writers and psychologists and psychiatrists and scientists, don't ignore what you've been given. This where you are in the language of the Hayom Yom, the Rebbe writes in the Hayom Yom, where you are, God decides. What you do there, you decide. So that's what this letter is going to address. This letter written to actually Rabbi Eliezer Einbinder. This is the second longest letter of the previous Rebbe. The longest letter is a letter he wrote to Rebbe Chaim Mushka about the long story of a student of the Baal Shem Tov named Mordechai and how he brought his friends to recognize the path of Chassidus. This letter was written to Rabbi Einbinder from the Valley's father. And the previous Rebbe said not just to study this letter, he should study this letter, but he said this letter should be distributed. People should focus and learn this letter to know what life's about. Let's go. Actually, this letter was sent on the 10th day of Iyar, around this time, in the year Tafshin Beis, in 1942. To my esteemed friend, who was God-fearing, Rabbi Eliezer, greetings and blessings. Euer Brief habe ich erhalten in der Zeit, aber ich bin gewinn sehr vernommen mit ernster Arbeit für die Sidri Halamudim in all Yeshivas Kinirbo Deutschland. I received your letter when you sent it, but I was busy with serious work in arranging the curriculum of all the yeshivas. May there be more in this country, in Canada, and there's Israel and in Israel. Wo im Bedarf alles schreiben dringend, darum habe ich jetzt nicht gekannt schreiben euch ausführlich wie mein Willen ist. Because I was so busy, I didn't have the time to write to you as I desired to. It says in a pasuk, this is the book of the Chronicles of Man. On the surface is a book about all of mankind, but the Friediker Rebbe says this book is not just this is not just referring to that particular book, the Book of Chronicles, but there's also a book that each of us has. Each of us is a book. Toldos Adam's a sefer, a person's life is a book which has to be studied. Und der Sefer bedarf sein der Wegweiser in der menschlichen Leben. And this book has to be the what shows you the way in your life. You're told us your genealogy, where you come from, as we'll see what that means exactly, is the book that you have to study. You have to study your own life. The Sefer Toldos Adam, your chronicles, your own life has to be studied, and by studying it, that will give you insight of what your life is about. Toldos Adam, the mention Geburt Mein. What does it mean, your birth? What are we referring to when we say your birth? That you have to study your birth. What are we referring to? Aleph, number 1, we're in the 3rd paragraph. Der Tachlos from the mentioned Geburt auf der Welt. The purpose of why a human being is born in this world. Number 2, by wem man wird geboren? Who were your parents? Gimel, in welche Platz man wird geboren? Where were you born? 4, Daled, in welches man man wird geboren? What time were you born? Hey, what kind of education did you receive? Vav 6, in was what kind of environment did you grow up in? Zion 7, what kind of talents do you have? Ches, welche midas tivius man hat? Second. Yeah. What kind of natural tendencies do you have? Test, welche Eigenschaften man hat? What kind of characteristics do you have? And we're going to analyze the difference between all of them. I know the 8 and 9 sound similar. What your natural midas are, your natural characteristics, and 9, which characteristics, and it sounds like very similar. We'll get to that. Yud, via Zoidashkochel Jena hat geführt die ganze Zeit mit der Menschen, bis ist geworden selbstständig, genommen nach Stellung im Leben. How divine providence has guided you this whole time, and from the moment you were born until the time you became a standing on your own 2 feet and having a approach to life. How divine providence has brought you from where you were to where you are now. That's Toldos Adam. So there are 10 things here. Why you were born, who your parents were, the place you were born, the time you were born, the education you received, the environment you grew up in, the talents you have, the natural midas you have, the natural characteristics and tendencies you have, and how divine providence has brought you to where you are now. Not time of day. I think time refers, we're going to address each of them in detail, the time in history. From the Alle Oben der Monte Zen, although you reminded me, the Rebbe once was looking out of the window, out of his office. Chassidim say in general, I don't know where this comes from, that when the Rebbe looks out of the window, whatever a Rebbe does, whatever a tzaddik does is the Gemara says that even a Talmud Chacham, even a wise person, whenever he says something, it's with wisdom. And even though he might not be discussing Torah, whatever a Talmud Chacham says, it's always it always could learn from it. Yes, even the mundane conversations of a Talmud Chacham, of a wise person, has to be studied. But they say, Chassidim say, when the Rebbe looks out of a window, that's like he's seeing something far, far away. So the way I heard the story was, I don't know if the story is accurate, the way I heard the story, the Rebbe was looking outside a window, and the Rebbe said to one of the secretaries, Yud Aleph Nisan, Tafei Shamach Beis, that's the date the Rebbe was born, it was a Friday. The Rebbe said on Friday, no matter how much you try to accomplish, by Jews, there's never enough time in the day. No matter how long the day is, like now in the summertime, no matter how long the day is, Friday is always a short day. They was saying how he doesn't have enough time to accomplish what he wants to accomplish. He can't do what he wants to do. So the secretary who was there told the Rebbe, what do you mean the Rebbe did so many blessings for so many people and brought so many children through the Rebbe's blessings? All the things he told the Rebbe discounted. And finally he told the Rebbe, what about all the Baalei Teshuva? What about all those who inspired the Teshuva? And that the Rebbe acknowledged that was indeed something that was worth coming to the world for. That's something that he did accomplish. Anyways, so von die alle eben der Monte 10 Sachen stellen sich zusammen der Tillus Adam. Und dann ist das ein Sefer, welchen man darf lernen und ausbleiben die Darcha Chaim, wie der Mensch bedarf sich aufführen in all seine Sachen. From all of these above mentioned 10 things, from all of them together, we have the story of man, and now we have a book which has to be studied. And now you're able to choose once you learn all these 10 things, you now have a book which can guide you to make a manual to choose the path of life that you have to live your life in all of your affairs, both in regards to how you have to serve Hashem and also the way you have to treat others. We're just turning down the page, next slide. Al Nivraim, Bashefinition. Sorry, it's. I don't know if this letter has ever been translated in English or in Hebrew. So I only have the Yiddish, the original Yiddish. Al Nivraim, Bashefinition, Velcha Hashem Yisborach Bashafen, aber Tachlos und in Zeis Faran Akavanat Slibdem, was hat Zeh Hashem Yisborach Bashafen. Und Zeh Badarfen Oisfirin the Oti Kavan El Yeno und Echzer Tachlos. All creatures which God made have a purpose, and God created them He created them for that purpose, and they have to fulfill the intent for why God made them. L'mashal, for example, in them was Hashem Yisborach HaBashafen, the mentions Varana Kavana. Hashem Yisborach revealed them from the mention. When God creates a human being, there's a purpose for why God makes that person. When they're mentioned atachos, and a person has a purpose, the tachos when Yedim Bashafenish is as al tzukum zahechradar. The purpose of each creature is to achieve a higher level. Every creature is here to go higher. All creatures are divided into 4 categories: the inanimate, vegetation, animal, and human. The goal of the inanimate is to bring benefit to vegetation. The goal of vegetation is to bring benefit to the animal. And the goal of the animal is to bring benefit to serve human. The tachos medaber is what's the goal of a human being, is to bring a nutzen in a vesa beirabarach, is to bring benefit, so to speak, to serve Hashem. The Mishnah Zok, the whole world was created for me, and I was created to serve Hashem. The whole world was created for me, and I was created to serve Hashem. That's why the Gemara says Hashem made man on the last day of creation. One reason is because Hashem says this is the crown of creation. All of creation is created for him, and therefore he is created last because Hashem wanted everything to be ready for us to be there before we're born. But why are we here? The whole world's created for you, but why are you here? You're here to serve Hashem. By the way, if anyone has any questions, please jump in with a question. Yeah. His question was, what am I doing here? He just got engaged, and he wanted to know, by starting off his life. And the Friediker gave him as a present this letter. The Kavan El Yena in the Ritzir Bechlal und die Bria Adam Befrat is Hecha von der menschlichen Verstand. The purpose of the world, the purpose of a human being, is higher than our understanding. The room sagen the Chazal, if them the Initiative Bria, Loschen Shuk on Taiva, die steht a Shuk mit der Sheish Misam Adni Paz, Sheikh za Elam Amud Sheish Shnivel Shishayamim, Sam Adni Paz, El Parshesel Ter. The Gemara uses the term desire when talking about God's will for creation, because A desire is something which is beyond logic and reason. You just want. So when we're talking about Hashem's desire for creation, you can't know, you can't understand Hashem's desire. We can know what he desired, as we'll discuss soon, but why he desired, we can't understand. It says in Tanya, Hashem desired that we should take a place of darkness, and in this place of darkness, we should make this place a home for Hashem. That's what Hashem wants, as we'll discuss. But why Hashem wanted, you can't know. And that's why the Gemara says, there's a pasuk, his thighs were pillars of marble, and they were on top of sockets of gold. So the Gemara comments on this verse, the word thighs refers to the world. The word pillars of marble are, why is the world called Shoikav, which means thighs? Because Shoikav is related to the word desire. God desired the world. What kind of world did he want? He wanted a world that was based on pillars of marble. What does marble mean? Marble, the word marble, sheish, is also the root of the word 6. So Hashem desired a world that was created in 6 days, and it's founded upon sockets of gold. What's the sockets of gold? The sockets of gold are referring to the Torah portions. So for our purposes, what we want to know from this statement of our sages, we want to focus on the word thighs, which is the same root as the word desire. Hashem desired the world, and we can't understand why he desired. Or in the next paragraph, Hashem desired to have a home in the lowest realm. Hashem desired to have a home in the lowest realm. And the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, when we say the word lowest, obviously we're not talking about physical space, because there is no higher and lower regarding spiritual things. That's not relevant. If higher physical, there's no higher and lower physical higher and lower. When we're talking about something spiritual, we're talking about a place which is low in the sense that Hashem's presence is the most hidden from. That this world is a world full of klippa, full of things that hide Hashem. And Hashem wants in this world, a world full of klippa, a world full of things that go against Hashem. And here, Hashem wants to have a home. Hashem is baruch. Gesagt, as if a Gluskeit, Taiva is nicht veranken kasha. The Alter Rebbe said, regarding a desire, you can't ask any questions. Das heißt, if I verstand, was das Seichel von einer Kusche mit der Tiefkeit von sich kann man haben natürlich auf der Kasche. Aber der Gluskeit ist Hechen von Seichel of them is nicht Hechen Kasche. When there is a logical reason for something, so you could ask a question. And when you delve deeply into a concept with your mind, you're able to find an answer for a question. But for a desire, which is beyond logic, you can't ask a question. There are various philosophers, Jewish philosophers, who address the purpose of creation from different standpoints. The Zohar says the purpose of creation is that we should know Hashem. The Eitz Chaim says the purpose of creation is, actually it's the opposite. The Eitz Chaim says the purpose of creation is so that Hashem should reveal his strength. The Zohar says the purpose of creation is so we should know Hashem. So Chassidus says that these two explanations of the Zohar and the Eitz Chaim aren't really a satisfactory explanation for creation. Because if the purpose of creation is that there should be beings that know Hashem, so Hashem should have stopped when he created the better creations in the world of Atzilus, the angels and souls, the world of Atzilus. Those creations, the highest worlds, they know Hashem. They should have been done there. Why did he continue on to create the worlds beneath Atzilus? And also, if we're talking about Hashem who created logic, how can you say a logical reason for creation? Hashem made the rules of logic. So can you say there's really a logical purpose of creation when Hashem created logic in the first place? So all explanations that you're going to give for creation are going to be based upon a reason which Hashem made logic in the first place. So what Chassidus says is that the other explanations are explanations that are satisfactory from the standpoint of the Zohar and Eitz Chaim, which were from the various worlds that they came from. The Zohar, Kabbalah comes to the world of Atzilus. Eitz Chaim is also a Kabbalistic work. the standpoint of those works, so you could, or let's in the world of Atzilus, what's the purpose of creation? Ask if you will live in Atzilus. You look like you live in Atzilus, no? If you live in Atzilus, you live in the highest world. So then your perspective. So then, what do you consider to be the best thing in creation? Best in creation is that we know Hashem. That's the goal of creation. That's true in that world. But asking the question in this world, that doesn't satisfy, because this world doesn't know Hashem in that way. So asking the question of Hashem's essence either, which is beyond logic, won't give you an answer, because Hashem's essence is beyond logic in the first place. Therefore, the Alter Rebbe says it's a desire, and regarding a desire of Hashem, you can't ask a question. Hashem desired, and He desired. That's what He wanted. What did He desire? We do know. Why He desired, you can't ask, because it's a desire. Now, it may seem unfair to say that Hashem has desires, and we also have desires, and why do His desires have to govern our lives? I also have desires, but it's the exact opposite. It's a larger discussion. We'll get into tomorrow and show the difference between Hashem's desires and our desires. But any other questions before we break for today? Yeah.
As human beings, how can we possibly understand Hashem? It's such a complex.
I hear your question. Ask the opposite question. If Hashem is our Father, how could He put us in this world without having any way of getting back, of connecting to Him? If Hashem cares about you, how could He put you in a world in a way you would have no way of figuring out how to connect with Him? If He cares about you, so for sure there must be, Hashem for sure didn't leave us alone, and that we have no way of connecting with Him. For sure Hashem must have given us guidance, not just to connect with Him, but as we're discussing this in this letter, a specific message Hashem has for you based upon your book of life, of where you need to go. Yes, we're gonna get to it. All right. A great day, Yonatan. Great day, Amit. Great day, Reb Zev. Great day, Yitzchak. Litrot. You're welcome. Litrot.
Thank you. Where is this letter printed?
This is in. Text me. I'll send you the where it's from.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Rev.